Thank you everyone for joining. Note that there is a chat box and a Q&A box, which will be directed to the panelists. Go ahead and put in the chat box where you're calling in from and maybe any favorite quarantine recipes. So I can kick us off here. Awesome, thanks for typing in. And so for folks who just joined, feel free to put in where you're calling in from and any favorite quarantine recipes. Looks like we've got someone from the UK, someone from Raleigh, from Tustin, California, Arkansas, San Antonio. So we're covering a lot of the country and the world already, which is great. And feel free to also chat us your favorite quarantine recipes. I saw herb crusted cauliflower steaks. That sounds pretty awesome. We've got San Jose, Phoenix, welcome. Got someone from Oakland, California, whose favorite recipe is homemade pad thai. That is quite the quarantine recipe. Nice. Got Isabel from San Francisco. Welcome. Cool. So for folks who have just joined, there is a little chat box where you can go ahead and write in where you're calling in from. There's also a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. So if at any point you have questions for our wonderful panelists, feel free to type those in and we'll kind of answer questions towards the end of our quarantine cooking session. We've got Lisa from Seattle, Lori from Albany, untuna salad made with chickpeas. Very cool, nice. Love that. Cool. Moringa avocado toast. All right. I was waiting for the Moringa plug to come. It was bound to happen. That sounds pretty great. We're just gonna give a couple more minutes. We'll start right at 11:35. So go ahead if you just joined on. Note there is a chat box and also a Q&A box. Go ahead and chat in, tell us where you're calling in from and any favorite quarantine recipes you have. And then feel free to use the Q&A box throughout the webinar today. You can ask any questions of our panelists or our moderator. We'll make sure they answer all your questions so that you can go forward with some great new recipes. We've got Ursula from Springfield, welcome. And wow, Jeet from Malaysia. I don't even know what time it is there, but thank you for joining us. We've got at least 3 different countries. Maybe get a few more. It is 2:30 a.m. in Malaysia. Thank you, Jeet. Wow. Well, we hope that this will be worth staying up all night for. Thank you for joining us. All right. Well, welcome everyone. For folks who've just come in, feel free to chat where you're coming from and any favorite quarantine recipes. And we're going to go ahead and get started. So I'm Lisa Curtis. I'm the founder and CEO of Kuli Kuli, and I'm so excited about today's webinar. Like many of you, I've been living the quarantine life for many months, and I think, at the beginning, all of us had grand aspirations of all of the incredible multi-course meals we were going to make during quarantine. And if you're anything like me, you soon face the reality of not wanting to shop in the grocery store and not wanting to spend all day in your kitchen. And so I started, searching for what are some ideas of quick and easy quarantine recipes, and turned to a couple of just the most amazing foodies I know. So very excited to have Chef Palak, Chef Mashable, and Emily Lawrence joining us. I'm going to start just by introducing Emily, and she'll introduce today's starring chefs. But Emily and I have known each other for a couple years, but I have been reading her posts for many, many years. If you don't know Well and Good, it is one of the most amazing food sort of blogs, recipe ideas, and so much more. Emily has written about everything on, how to make kale meal preps, to refugee cookbooks, to even how to be a great white ally. And her voice is so compelling. And, she's the person who inspires so many of my recipes. So Well and Good is the outlet. And then we brought together two incredible star chefs from the Food Network, who Emily will go ahead and introduce. So thank you all so much for joining, and we're excited to kick off today's webinar.
Thanks so much, Lisa. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you guys for tuning in. Same boat as Lisa. I have been cooking more at home these past couple months than in a long time, and I for one have tired out all my go-to recipes, so I'm excited to learn something new today. It doesn't involve banana bread, any type of bread, just something new. I met Lisa in 2017. She actually came by the Well and Good offices and was the first person to tell me about Moringa. I had never heard of it before, and if you guys haven't heard of it, it's a ground up green leaf that has twice as much iron as spinach, or 3 times as much iron as spinach, and twice the amount of protein. So it's a really great super green. And we're going to learn how to cook with it today, which brings us to our amazing chefs, Chef Michelle Hunter and Chef Palak Patel. Hi guys, it's so glad to see you.
Hello everyone.
If you guys aren't familiar with our amazing chefs, I'll give you a brief intro on them. Chef Palak was the winner on Chopped and beat Bobby Flay, and she is the creator of Dinner Lab Supper Club. And Chef Michelle Hunter was also on Chopped, and she is the executive chef at Hamlet and Ghost in Saratoga Springs, New York. So before we get cooking, I have a couple questions for you guys. And also, if you're tuning in, definitely feel free to ask questions anytime by just putting it in the Q&A chat box, and we'll try to get to it as we're cooking or at the end. But okay, question for both of you chefs. You have to tell me about Chopped. Is what you see on TV actually how it is, or is it completely staged?
I'll go first, I guess. This is probably the most common question that I'm sure, Michelle, you get asked too. Chopped is exactly what you see. The amount of stress that we're under is exactly translated on screen. They don't stop the cameras. And I think that's the reason for the success of the show is imagine the chicken running around with its head. That's reality in the Chopped kitchen. So, very, very intense and chaotic, and all the pressure that you're seeing, we're feeling.
Yes, absolutely right. I mean, it's us running around not knowing where ingredients are, and they take everything about the show and the moments that we aren't filming in those rounds very seriously. You're kept in a small room very quietly waiting for the turn for the next round. And it's full of anxiety and stress, exactly the way it's portrayed on the show. There's no TV magic. That's all real.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Also, I'd love to hear what you guys have been doing during quarantine. Have you experimented with cooking anything new? And if so, what was it and how did it turn out?
For me, I've actually, well, I've been cooking a lot during the quarantine because I think for chefs alike, it's the one thing that kind of keeps me sane and, you know, grounded. So it's a bit of a stress reliever for me. Even when I say I don't want to cook, I actually do want to cook. I might complain about it, but I'm still going to cook. I have recently gotten into learning how to work with Thai ingredients. It's one of the family favorites, and I don't know much about it, so reading and experimenting and, you know, a few bad batches of things where it's like, so I think for me, generally Thai food and fun little experiments, like where I made something and then I bought one from the restaurant and I did like a side-by-side tasting, because I'm like, once I can master that and it tastes like what I get in takeout, then I've made it. So a lot of experimentation, really.
Yeah, I'm also doing a lot of experimenting and reading. I've had a sourdough that just kind of went to the wayside for a long time. So my husband's been helping me keep that alive, and we made 100% sourdough focaccia and sourdough pizza dough. And that was really fun because having something all sourdough with no yeast has always been kind of a challenge for me, and I've always been curious about it. So that's mostly what I've been doing, and probably baking a little too much and eating a lot of cake.
Yeah, same. Maybe I won't put that in sourdough. Yeah.
I was waiting for sourdough to come up.
Yeah.
I don't have the patience to babysit something because I'm like, now I have to give it CPR when it's like that.
My husband helps a lot.
All right, well, let's get cooking. Chef Palak, you're first up. And to everyone watching the webinar, both of these recipes are going to be emailed out after the webinar is over. So everyone will have them. But what are we making today? We
are going to make something that I've recently discovered, because I don't know about you guys, but I have become the world's biggest snacker. Like, I need to constantly be in something. If a bag is not, like, you know, making noise and I don't have crumbs, then it's not a day that I've lived. So the snacking's been a big problem for me personally. Jalapeno chips and things of that sort. So savory flavors are my favorite. And I know that we're supposed to eat oatmeal. I personally don't like breakfast oatmeal. I don't care how you dress it up. I'll eat it occasionally, but I just keep staring at like the 5-pound bag of oatmeal that I got that I'm supposed to eat. And I was like, I can do better than this. And so this recipe was just kind of inspired by trying to take a different take on something that we know that we should eat, and incorporating flavors that I like to eat. And it started by becoming a stovetop chai granola, which I made because I was like, well, I'm not going to eat lumpy oatmeal, but I will eat a whole bowl of chai granola that's crunchy and a little salty. So then that's what this recipe came down to. And I love paprika. I think, Emily, you and I shared our joint love affair for paprika and all the iterations of paprika. So sweet paprika, smoked paprika, you know, spicy paprika, and then I'll talk a little bit about what we're putting in. So then I'm like, why can't I make a savory, spicy granola? And that's where we are. And so when Lisa sent me Moringa, I was like, great, another thing that I'm supposed to have, and a unique application to Moringa. I wanted to show you guys, because I was born and raised in India, and Moringa is very cutely known as drumsticks, as you can see. This is what Moringa looks like in its true form before it's dried and powdered. Indians use this in a lentil dish, which is called sambar. Obviously, there's other applications, but the most famous one is from South India. And what happens is you just take these, you kind of put them in water, and then once they're defrosted, you put them in the lentil stew. And what that does is Moringa on the inside is like nice and pulpy. And so all the flavors get inside of the drumstick. And the best part as a kid, when they are cut into half, you just kind of like take it and like scrape it on your teeth, and you get this flavor of the lentil and the flesh of the moringa sticks. So that's been kind of my childhood introduction and love affair with moringa. So when I saw it in a powdered form, I was like, game over. This is something that is hugely, you know, something that I can put into my daily routine. So we're gonna make granola. Now, I am making this recipe very user-friendly, meaning it's just a template. This is an idea on how you can change up your granola. It doesn't have to be on the stovetop. I'm just particularly lazy, and sometimes I forget that things are in the oven and I might walk away, especially these days. And so with it being on the stovetop, I can keep an eye on it. I can have 2 skillets, and I can do it a little faster than waiting for the oven to preheat. And so the recipe starts with whole rolled oats, and these are gluten-free for anybody that has any kind of gluten allergy. And they're beautiful. They're kind of, you know, widely pressed and obviously very good for you. Now, in the raw form, they're kind of eh. So the reason to toast them is to get kind of the flavor out of them, and they kind of become nutty and toasty. And so I just put them in like a pan and like let them go on a medium heat, stir them every so often. And what will end up happening is, I'll show you one of the grains. I hope you guys can see it. It becomes like really like light brown. And so it's nice and toasty so that it can absorb the flavor and it's not as raw. So that's what toasting and or putting it into an oven will do. And so I want to toast the oatmeal and then a couple of the other ingredients. So granola for me is just anything that is good for you and whatever you have on hand. So traditionally it's a mix of nuts and seeds and raisins or craisins, any number of those things. So I happen to have in my fridge today some walnuts. These are raw whole walnuts that I'm going to chop up and then also toast. And the reason I'm toasting the nuts, and here are some pumpkin seeds. This is also a great substitute for anybody that is allergic to any kind of nut. Pumpkin seeds or sunflower seeds are a great crunch factor that you can put in without the allergy issue. So these are pumpkin seeds, and I'm going to toast both of these lightly until I can smell them a little bit. And what happens is, like, these are kind of asleep, and when you roast or when you toast them, their essential oils come out, and that's where it kind of tastes better, and you can kind of taste the walnut for what a walnut should taste like. And that is kind of the crunchy part of it. For raisins,
protein too.
Yeah, a lot of protein, a lot of kind of good for you ingredients, and you can go nuts. Like, I mean, I've made a version of this with flaxseed, or, you know, you can drop in at the end a little bit of chia powder, right? So I always try to think of, when I'm doing recipes, of like, what's the quickest way for me to get all the things that I need to eat in a format that I'm going to eat it.
Yeah.
You know, just having single one-off things of like, okay, I know I need to eat flaxseed. I know I have to have moringa. I know I need to eat my oatmeal. And I don't have time to make 7 different dishes. So it's easy to like find a way to incorporate all the things I love in one recipe. So just give these a chop. I happen to love golden raisins. This is a very Indian thing. Because we put golden raisins in a lot of Indian food, and there's 2 types. So this is the golden raisin, that, you know, the grape dries, and then the one I don't have, which I actually really love, are Persian raisins. And this is a fake Persian raisin, but they're usually longer and they're almost a deep green. And to me, the flavor of that and the texture is really nice. But any kind of raisin or craisin, dried cherries, prunes, all of those things would work. And so this is kind of, and use your nose when you're toasting things. So if you start smelling it, that means it's getting there. And then the last thing that I put in, is, I'll show you guys these. I love dried coconut. This is a very, again, a very Indian ingredient. coconut milk and coconut products have exploded in the marketplace. So anytime you can incorporate them, but these are really lovely because they toast up really nicely and it's got a little bit of a crunch, kind of like a chip. So I pre-toasted those, and then I have my oatmeal toasted here. For kind of the base of the granola, the thing that binds it is a little bit of coconut oil. So I've taken some, melted it into the microwave, and then maple syrup or honey. So you do need a sweetener, a little bit, not a lot. And then a little sweetener with a pinch of sea salt. Anytime, and I'm sure Chef Michelle, since you've been baking a lot of times when you're cooking with sweet ingredients, it's nice to add like a touch of salt. There's something about having salt that brings out and amplifies the flavors of the sweet things. So every time you get a little bite of granola, you're going to taste a little pop of salt with the maple syrup, which is a lovely delight for your palate, as they would say on Chopped. And so just kind of mix that through. And then I want to talk a little bit about the paprika that I'm using. These are Spanish paprikas. Not necessarily, there's an organic grocery store brand that's also packaged and made in Spain, but I feel like it's an ingredient that I love to have, and it's an ingredient that I use quite often, whether it's on eggs or tofu scramble or any number of things. So this is what we're going to use. One's very smoky, one's very sweet, and then for a little bit of additional smoky flavor, a chipotle powder. Chipotle is just a dried jalapeno that's been like smoked, and so chipotle powder also gives it that depth. And then the star of the day, which is the Moringa powder. This is beautiful, and you can just smell it right out of the bottle. You know it's good for you when it smells like green. So I'm going to use about a teaspoon of that. You can make as much or as little of this. Sometimes I just make a couple of cups because I use it for the week, or you can make it for a large family size, and that's fine. And then just whisk all that with and Emily, you'll let me know how I'm doing on time because I get carried away.
Yeah, and it seems like this granola is really adaptable for whatever someone has in their pantry. It sounds like the important parts are hitting on the different taste notes, the sweet, salty, smoky. Sounds like it's a lot in there.
Yep, and the nice part is I change up the spices quite a bit. So right here I brought like a chai masala, which is always in my pantry for teas. This is a great addition if you have lots of cinnamon, nutmeg, clove powder, cardamom. All these things work really, really nicely. And then what you want to do is just take everything, put it back into the pan, and just to kind of heat it through and mix it. And then that's it. So the toasting takes less than 10 minutes, and then this part will take you a few more minutes. And you can cheat. You can have more than one skillet if you wanted to. Get everything into one bit, and I'm gonna get that going. And then I also have one batch that I finished already.
That's good. I think we are running up against time, but I mean, I'm gonna be nicer than people on Chopped. I'm not gonna, come over there.
Good news.
I'm not gonna put you off, but
I didn't show you guys what the finished batch looks like since my time is almost up, but yeah, this is beautiful. It dries. You want to let it cool, and then it's honestly, crunchy, and I know it's good for me, so I can eat as much as I want.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's time at the end too where I know some people are making this at home as well, so we can eat and ask questions at the end too. Definitely here for that. Chef Michelle, what are you making today?
Hi everyone. Today we're actually going to make a coconut milk panna cotta with a little bit of moringa powder inside. I have very similar ingredients to Chef Palak actually, because my pantry has a lot of the same things. I have the same toasted coconut chips. I have some Marcona almonds and some orange to put on top. What's really nice about this recipe is that it's not super sweet, so it's really easy to turn it into a dessert, or I also frequently eat it for breakfast. with the savory granola on top would actually be really good.
Yeah, seriously, that would be a good combo.
It would be really, really good. So the recipe is really easy. It has coconut milk, and this actually has some heavy cream, but if you are looking to make it dairy-free, it's easily convertible with any type of non-dairy milk that you'd like. I would suggest using like oat milk or almond milk and not more coconut milk, because coconut milk, when it's cold, it gets really solidified, so you just want to make sure to have something a little more fluid. So we're just going to heat up our cream, and then I also have some gelatin bloomed here, ready to go. It's just cold water and powdered gelatin. We have some sugar, just a little bit. Some coconut milk. I actually open up the can upside down because I make a mess when all the cream is at the top. Then we have some vanilla and then some moringa powder. So I just have the cream heating up now, and then I also have some jars ready to go. You can put it in any type of container that you want. I just have these cute little jars to put it in. Yeah, that's it. I'm gonna check on our cream here.
Chef Michelle, what are some staples that you always have in your pantry and your fridge?
In my pantry and my fridge, I generally keep coconut milk around because usually my go-to dinner when I have zero time is Thai red curry. So there's always some type of ginger floating around and coconut milk, and then whatever vegetables are left over in the fridge, I can just throw them in, which is really nice. It's always a lot of nuts and seeds and breakfast food, because breakfast is pretty much the only meal that I have at home. It's like a lot of coffee and then some type of yogurt and granola, or my husband and I do a lot of eggs in the morning, which is also really nice.
Chef Palak, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I love the moringa panna cotta. Have you ever put any kind of other fruit in the mix with the moringa? And if so, what do you recommend?
I actually really like it combined with like toasted cocoa. Like caramelized cocoa nibs, I think, go really well with it, which I thought was really good. And this one I'm doing orange, but yesterday I actually tried it with sour cherry and it was really good. But I haven't experimented much with smoothies. I've seen that mostly online, what people are doing. So I was trying to do something that isn't so accessible, I guess you'd say.
I did just recently when I first got the batch from Lisa, I did a key lime pie. A key lime pie. It was phenomenal. Something about that with lime.
Yeah.
They're like a match made in heaven. So something
Really?
for your panna cotta experiment, maybe do the baby limes.
Key limes? Yeah. It was actually in the vinaigrette that I made on Chopped was lime.
Yeah. There's, I don't know if you had any kind of embarrassing moments, but when I was looking, I had a big fish that I had to butcher, and like the knives they give you are like, you know, because you can't bring your own. And there's one point where I was trying to take the cleaver off. It's a prop.
Yeah.
I was trying to get the prop off because I was like, I just need to get the head off. And I'm trying to pull the cleaver, the chopped cleaver off the wall. And I was like, my friends have made fun of me relentlessly. They're like, you're supposed to take the prop off the wall. I'm like this girl.
Did anything like that happen to you, Chef Michelle?
Nothing with any props. I definitely failed miserably in the entree round because the other contestant had the grinder and I had no grinder, and I was the person that didn't touch the protein until 5 minutes before. It was terrible.
Well, it's hard too because you can't bring your own tools, like you were saying. You know, you're at the mercy of what they have for you to cook with.
Yeah, we weren't able to bring our own knives. I don't know. It was very limited. Like, we're only allowed to have a few, but we were able to bring them. So this is our warm cream. I just added the sugar. So now, while it's still nice and warm, we're gonna add our gelatin so it can melt. This recipe is great because if you have everything on hand, it literally takes 5 minutes. So we're just gonna add our gelatin here. Whisk that to dissolve. So now we're gonna add our coconut milk to actually help cool it down because we wanna to not cook the moringa powder because it'll really help keep its nutritional value as long as we keep it as raw as possible.
Oh, I wouldn't have thought of that cooking the moringa changes the nutritional value. That's a good point.
I don't know much about it. I just know that. So that brought the temperature down a bit, but not enough to help start the gelatin to set. So now we're just going to add a little bit of vanilla. You can use extract. This is just vanilla paste that I keep around. So it has a little bit of vanilla bean in it as well. So it'll have little specks inside the panna cotta.
Chef, how do you store that paste?
I just keep it in the pantry, actually. It has a lot of sugar in it as well. So I think that helps preserve it.
Yeah, and I was going to say I've started to learn to keep all my peppers, like the paprikas, in the fridge.
Right.
Just a changer, because they're not cheap.
What does that do, keeping them in the fridge?
It preserves the color for a longer period of time. I made this mistake, and I think I was telling you guys the story. I bought this very expensive French pepper espelette, and it's bright red, like vivid red. And I kept it in the cupboard for, I don't even know, not even maybe 2.5 months. And I pulled it out and it had changed, like it was so muted, like as if someone just like zapped the color out of it. And so even when you buy it here in the States, I bought it from France, but in the States, they actually keep it in a cold section at like proper grocery stores, or I should say specialty stores. So yeah, just preserves the color and the shelf life.
Yeah, color is such a big part of what you eat too. You know, it really just makes a big difference when you look down at your plate and it's actually something colorful and pretty.
Yeah. I love those jars, Michelle.
So cute.
It's like my to-go.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
I'm frequently eating my breakfast in the car on the way to work. So I keep myself too busy sometimes.
That's so
Yeah,
sweet.
we're onto a dish with our combined ingredients.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I might have to experiment with this.
So these are ready to go. I'm just going to pop them in the fridge. They should be ready within 4 hours, but overnight is always good for the best texture. And then I do have one that's ready to go here in a different jar. And then we'll just put some toppings on it. So we have some toasted coconut, Marcona almonds, and some orange segments too.
That looks
Lots
so
of
good.
crunch. And like so much protein between the moringa and all the nuts and seeds. I definitely have to make that granola to put on it now.
Like I'm all about cheating my way into healthy.
Yeah,
I'm like one swoop, I check off like 4 or 5 things and it's great. It looks beautiful.
Looks
That's
great.
it. Breakfast and or dessert.
Oh my gosh. Well, we're at the taste testing time. So if you want to, if you want to dig into both of you, if you want to dig into your creation.
Again, you mean again? I'll be happy to eat again.
Oh my gosh. They both look so good. And they would be good together for sure.
Yeah, definitely. It's a nice kind of starter recipe too for people that may not like if moringa is a little too powerful of a flavor for people. It's nice with the other toppings that'll kind of help balance everything out and it's just not as vegetal. Very tasty.
What is a good cooking tip for people that haven't cooked with moringa before? What types of flavors does work well balancing it out? Question for both of you.
I'm looking forward to trying it with the spices that Chef Patel is doing. I've just noticed it goes really well with a lot of fruits. And like she said, citrus actually goes really, really well.
Yeah, I think the lime was a very interesting discovery because I was always making key lime pie with matcha, and I can't have too much caffeine. And so matcha, and even in the smallest amounts, like it would just, and then I couldn't give it to my friends' kids. So when I got the moringa, it looked exactly the same. and the flavor just kind of muted with the coconut milk, kind of like what Mashable is doing.
Right.
One great way is to just put it in like the veggie stews and curries, because again, the way that the traditional Indian dishes use them is in a savory, spicy stew, so that it mutes the flavor, and you can put it in right at the end and just kind of mix it in so you're not like overcooking it. But yeah, and I'm in my smoothies, like it's kind of just a, you know, no-brainer. A teaspoon of it goes a long ways. Mixed with mango, I've also found like mango and moringa are very complementary flavors. So,
Chef Michelle, someone had a question for you. With your recipe, if there's a swap out someone could do for the sugar, if there was a alternative type of sugar that could work.
Yeah, this recipe is really fluid. It's not one of the pastry recipes that you need to follow exactly, which is really nice. I haven't done it with a liquid sugar, like if you were to use honey or agave. If you do choose to do one of those, I would start out with probably half the amount, just because they are so much sweeter. But it shouldn't have a problem with the texture at all. It should be really easy to switch out.
And Chef Palak, someone had a question for you too. With the granola, how long is it put on the stove for?
oh, once all the spices and stuff are mixed in,
Right. Yeah.
not even 30 seconds, 45. I'm just looking to heat it all through so that it can combine. Because the coconut oil sometimes, like if I've let it sit out underneath the air conditioning, it might get solidified. So just putting it back on the stove is just to incorporate everything and wake up the spices, because I didn't toast them, anything. So a little bit of heat on the spices wakes them up, and then it incorporates the granola together.
Also, anyone else watching, if you have any questions for the chefs, just drop them into that Q&A box and I can relay them over there. You know, obviously everyone's been cooking more at home, so I'm curious what you guys think are the benefits of that, if there are, like especially when it comes to using functional ingredients.
Cooking at home, you mean? The benefits of?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just cheaper, and you know what's in your food. I mean, I think with, yeah, the dietary restrictions of everybody, you always know what's in your food. You can always control the quality of the ingredients. So yeah, I think it's just cheaper and better for you.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with like knowing what's in your food. We all go out to eat and we feel like we're ordering something healthy by eating a salad or something grilled, and there's a lot of processed ingredients in a lot of restaurants, and even the very good quality restaurants where they're making everything from scratch, we're not afraid to put a lot of butter or ghee or whatever in food to make sure it tastes really good. So it's nice being at home and being able to monitor that. Absolutely.
We have some questions coming in. I think we talked about this a little bit, but someone was asking if cooking the moringa lowers the nutritional value, which I think, Chef Michelle, you had said yes.
That's my understanding. I'm sure Lisa could probably touch more on the details of that. I just know that in Kuli Kuli's product especially, they always focus on how it's raw and preserved really quickly. So if a company is going out of their way to make sure something is staying raw, I just assumed it was for the nutritional value of that. Because the same thing goes for a lot of vegetables. Once you cook them, the nutritional value goes down, or their highest nutritional value is the closest time when they're harvested. If like something is harvested and you don't eat it until 3 weeks later, the nutritional value is already diminished.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and I think Lisa just responded. Yeah, cooking moringa will lower the vitamins A in particular, but you'll keep the protein, fiber, and antioxidants.
Good to know.
I was thinking just from having consumed both types of the raw moringa, and I've even had it where it's just sold at the market without it being frozen. In the US, it's a little bit harder to get the sticks. But in India, you do get the sticks, and they cut them up and they make it with a chickpea batter. I think moringa is easier to digest, unlike a kale, which is why like a lot of raw kale is very hard on your system, which is why you either have to massage it or make sure you cook it down. So it's not one of these ingredients that you need to worry about like having it raw.
Mm-hmm.
Someone else is asking if there's a way to use moringa in recipes that kids will like.
The panna cotta is a good start. And maybe it's just something, do you think it's because kids are afraid of the color or the very vegetal flavor? I don't have kids, so I'm not sure.
Yeah. I'm gonna guess, like I've seen my friends do this. They try to sneak stuff in.
Right.
So
Yeah, maybe
I'm thinking like a baked zucchini like muffin that looks like a cupcake, and then you put it inside the batter and it kind of blends the color of the zucchini, then you blame it on the zucchini.
Or maybe that key lime pie. That sounds like it tastes
Yeah, it's just depending on when, moringa pesto.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Actually, I think that green color could be fun for kids, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, in the garden, we have Thai basil. So I will challenge you on that, and I will pesto. You just go out and pick some leaves.
How do both of you get inspired to create new recipes? Like, where do your ideas come from?
For me personally, I mean, we're very blessed with social media now, which is really nice, where between Facebook and Instagram, and I mean, even just the push for chefs and their own cookbooks on social media is amazing. We're very lucky to have that outlet where I think dining out and traveling was the only option before, when people don't always have the time to do that. So dining out obviously gives a lot of inspiration, but it's great that we can watch so many amazing chefs so closely, even from home. And I think that definitely gives us a lot of inspiration. And up here, like in upstate New York, there's so many beautiful farms, and a lot of very good friends of mine now have farms. So that is a huge inspiration too. Like ingredient focused dishes versus finding a dish you want to make and then having to go hunt for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, echoing on all the things that Michelle said. And then for me, I grew up with such a different cuisine altogether that I feel like I'm really lucky that I have this like arsenal of spices and flavors that are, you know, that I can borrow from, or techniques that I can borrow from. And it's really interesting because in the last 10 years, I've seen basic everyday ingredients that are 100% like in my pantry right now, like black salt and, you know, turmeric and chickpea flour. I mean, it's like these are the things that were ingredients of my childhood. And so it's really nice to see those ingredients come to life in different recipes. So it's nice to, you know, borrow from ancient history.
Yeah, especially with turmeric. I know that whenever I write about turmeric for Well and Good, it gets so much traffic because people seem to be hungry for ways of using it. And of course, it lowers inflammation. So that's a positive to having a lot of turmeric. What are some ways that people can cook with turmeric they might not have tried before? Either one of you.
I put it in everything. I mean, treat turmeric in a small amount like you would salt and pepper. So without, you know, because it is a strong flavor in a big quantity, but like a pinch or so in your green beans, like sprinkled on top of cauliflower before you roast it, a little on your eggs. I mean, it just, or even a touch in your dressing, right? So the moringa with a tiny bit of turmeric, and excellent ways to get to very strong antioxidant flavors into your food. So I think the easy thing is to don't overthink it and just, you know, use it as if it's like one of the ingredients. You can't go wrong. And if you don't like it, don't use it next time. Don't put it on something that's like, oh, maybe I did a little too much. So the only way to know it is just try it. Try a little sprinkle on the side. And then if you like it in the whole dish, or if you like it on the side, put it on the whole dish.
Yeah, absolutely. In small quantities, it can go with almost anything. It's when people put a whole tablespoon in their tea that they're just like, whoa.
It's potent, as my grandmother would say. It's very potent.
We have another question about the spice list for the granola. And again, if you tuned in late, all the recipes will be emailed to you, so you will have them. But what are could you just run through the spices that you?
Oh, 100%. So I used 2 different types of paprika. This is a Spanish paprika. One is sweet, and excuse my Espanol, because I don't speak very good Spanish, but one's called dulce, and then one's picante, so hot and sweet. The combination is one's like smoky and one's for a little bit of the heat. And of course, these are like dried peppers that they put out in the sun, and that's where they get the smoky flavor. And then chipotle powder, which is a very common ingredient in Mexican cooking. You could, if you didn't have this, you could substitute cayenne pepper, just a pinch of it. Cayenne is also very strong with the heat. But if you didn't have it, just opt out on the chipotle powder. And then I put a little bit of sea salt. Sea salt is really mild. It's better for you than iodized salt. And it's a bit more granular than like kosher salt. So it disintegrated into my mixture very easily. And then I did moringa. Yeah, that's good.
I know for me, some of my spices will sit in my pantry for literally years. Is there a way to know if they've gone bad, or can spices go bad?
Yeah, they do, of course. The powdered stuff, you'll notice that the color, it's not that they've gone bad, they just lose their potency. So, the color might be the first thing to go, then the amount of heat starts to dissipate over time. So they're not bad as in you're gonna get sick. You just have to get as much out of them. So when possible, buy whole spices and then grind them yourself. That's the fail-safe way. And right now there's so many retailers that have bulk bins where you can buy just what you need in like a little baggie and they weigh it. So opt for that rather than the whole expensive jar, especially if you're new to working with spices. And then, put it in the fridge for some of the colorful stuff and it should be fine. You can always put it, one last thing, we can always like heat it up a little bit right before you're cooking it. It kind of wakes up the spices again if they've been in the cabinet for a while. Older than 2 years, get rid of it.
Definitely get rid of it.
Yeah.
It seems like more people are starting to grow a lot of their own seasonings and herbs at home too, like even just on the kitchen counter, like bringing the outdoors in, since we are at home more, so it's kind of a great way to have some greenery that you can actually then eat and use.
Yeah.
So
And if you end up at the end of the season with the light, you can always dry them, like tie them up with like a little string and then just hang them until they're super dry. And those cute little jars Michelle was using, those are perfect vessels for storing your extra spices.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that we're getting a look inside your actual kitchens. It seems like a behind the scenes sort of thing to me, to see like where you actually do your cooking.
Where all the dishes are done.
I'm surprised it's not full. Like this thing isn't full of dishes. I think like eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner at home, I'm doing dishes all the time.
All day. Yeah.
Yeah. My lunch dishes are waiting for me like 5 feet away. So just looking this way. It looks like someone is also suggesting adding moringa to yogurt, which is good for kids too. That's a really good suggestion. Similar to Chef Michelle, your dessert, like the same concept, I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely. I did see one question too, asking how long the panna cotta will hold in the fridge. All the ingredients are extremely stable, so it'll hold in the fridge for probably up to 7 days. You can actually freeze it as well if you're looking to do that.
Yeah, and with that one batch, you basically made your breakfast for the week. Unless you have it for dessert too, which I would do.
There was more that I didn't put into jars. There's probably enough for 6 or 8 of the jars.
How
And
does your, oh, go ahead. What were you saying?
panna cotta popsicles when you said
Yeah,
freeze.
absolutely.
That sounds delicious. I was gonna ask do you guys meal prep, like being busy so much of the time and your hours can be off, working in the food industry. So how do you meal prep or plan your meals for what you're going to eat?
I'd like to say that I do a really good job, but I don't. I definitely do a pretty good job as far as shopping for breakfast and eating breakfast really well. But generally, I probably only eat twice a day, and it's at home once and then probably at work once. But I try and just make sure at least I get a lot of nutrients, at least in that one meal for sure.
Yeah, I don't think I do a great job with meal prep. What I do is keep a lot of quick on-hand things in my freezer, or like the curry paste. I keep green and red always.
Yeah.
And coconut milk. I have various different types of lentils and grains always that take less than 10 minutes to cook. So all things that make, when I do have the sliver of time to make a meal, easy for me.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I work really well with a formula. Okay, greens, this protein is prepped, and I don't know, some sort of grain or carby thing, like sweet potatoes, and that way, that the hard work is kind of done as far as, I don't know, figuring out the formula and just going for it. But
right, and it's always good to have those healthy snacks available because all of us like to snack during the day for sure.
What are meals, days, times? Yes, everything just runs together now. Yeah. I know. I think my biggest job perk is that I get sent a bunch of foods and snacks to try. So had I known I would get free food, I maybe would have become a food less many years ago. But yeah, it's definitely a perk. And
I bet Moringa would be pretty good in a dip for veggies too, I'd imagine. I used to make one with tofu blended up with dill, and I could definitely see it going really well with Moringa as well.
Yeah. Ideas. Chimichurri is the other thing that I was thinking of, because it's a great staple for people that do steaks right now, in the summer months, or a grilled shrimp. So you can just put that on and, put it in at the end, and it's beautiful with an olive oil and garlic and things. So
yeah.
Moringa chimichurri.
And Chef Palak, can you tell people about your cubes that, in case they haven't seen those before? Because those are good too.
Yeah, I because of the same issues that we're talking about, people not being comfortable with spices and not having, or have spices go bad because they didn't use them fast enough. I made a curry cube, and so I formulated it with a lot of spice that I know are kind of one-offs for people that don't cook with that many spices, all added into a cute little, individual sized cube that you can drop into water or oil. You can use it as marinade, you can use it in vinaigrettes, but it's stews. I even put it into sometimes stock. And so it's a nice way to have a lot of the unique spices all formulated into one little individual size cube. And the company is called BOU, B-O-U. And you can find, they have a ton of SKUs, but this one is my own formulated. They have miso ginger and beef and gravy and all kinds of other stuff. So it was fun creating a product.
Yeah, easier than trying to figure out a combination yourself. You came up with it, people will know it's good.
Yeah.
And Chef Michelle, are you up to anything that you want people to know? I know your restaurant is open currently, right?
Yes, we actually opened last week, which was really exciting. So we have outdoor seating for the first time due to the new world that we're in. So we have a bunch of beautiful seats outside because in the town where our restaurant is, it's very busy for the Saratoga racetrack in the summer, but unfortunately they can't have spectators this year. So we're now open for lunch for the season because we assume people are going to be in town and need somewhere to eat. So we're open for lunch and dinner Wednesday through Saturday now, looking to expand our hours soon. but a lot of beautiful tables outside and seasonal food, and all of us at the restaurant as a whole are really excited just to be able to serve people again, because it's something that we really love to do, and we're just really looking forward to it.
What are a few things on the menu that you're excited about that people should try?
We have a cucumber panzanella right now, which is really awesome. It has a white balsamic vinaigrette and some grilled garlic croutons, grilled sourdough croutons, which are really amazing. The Arctic char that's on the menu right now, my sous chef actually developed the recipe. It's a very bright and spring dish, it turned out really amazing. We have scaffata, which is traditionally like an Italian braised bean and green, but we did kind of a lighter, brighter version with haricot vert, asparagus, fresh English peas, and it has a black pepper velouté, which is really, really good.
I'm really glad that we did this after I ate lunch because
I am so hungry. I was like, I hope I'm not drooling.
And for people who are asking in the chat, Chef Mashable works at Hamlet and Ghost. It's in Saratoga Springs, New York. So that's where you can find her and pay her to cook for you.
There most of the time.
Yes. Well, I think we're just right up against time, unless there's any last questions coming in. But this has been so fun. I'm so glad I learned some new ways to cook with Moringa and see you guys. And thank you everyone for tuning in across the country and the world. I think we have someone from Malaysia, someone from Nigeria, four different countries here, which is really exciting. And again, to everyone tuning in, the recipes, both recipes will be emailed to everyone who attended. So you'll be able to make your own creations at home. But thank you. Yeah, this has been so fun.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, everyone.
Great.